You've been obedient your whole life, calling it loyalty. In 2026, obedience becomes slavery. If you don't seize control, someone colder will design your fate for you. You believe you're in control because no one is physically holding you down. That's the first deception. Control in 2026 doesn't look like chains. It looks like options. It looks like convenience. It looks like opportunity. You wake up, you scroll, you choose what to watch, what to buy, who to message, what to believe. You call that freedom. But a cage with multiple doors is still a cage if every door leads where someone else wants you to go. You think you're deciding. You're selecting from a pre-approved menu. Your opinions fed to you in fragments. Your desires triggered by engineered comparison. Your ambitions quietly shaped by what earns applause. You didn't choose the metrics, you're reacting to them. Look closely at your day. You respond to notifications. You respond to expectations. You respond to financial pressure. You respond to social pressure. Response is not control. Response is submission with better branding. Real control is initiation. Most men never initiate anything. They wait, they adapt, they negotiate, they compromise. They call it maturity. In reality, they are orbiting forces stronger than them, institutions, employers, partners, social narratives, hoping not to be crushed. And the system rewards that obedience. The obedient man gets comfort. The obedient man gets validation. The obedient man gets just enough stability to never revolt. But stability is a leash. You were trained to believe that being good ensures safety, that if you follow the rules, stay agreeable, avoid conflict, and remain useful, your future will unfold in your favor. That belief is fatal. The world does not reward goodness, it rewards leverage. If your income disappears tomorrow, how much control do you really have? If your reputation shifts overnight, who stands by you? If the rules change next year, do you adapt or do you collapse? Control is tested in removal. Remove your job, remove approval, remove external structure. What remains? Most men panic because their identity is outsourced, their direction is outsourced, their confidence is outsourced. You don't own your path, you rent it, and renters can be evicted. In 2026, systems will tighten, economically, socially, digitally. The illusion of choice will increase, more platforms, more opportunities, more distractions, but real independence will shrink. Those who mistake noise for power will be swallowed. The truth is simple and brutal. If you depend on something you do not control, that thing controls you. Employer, audience, partner, government, algorithm. Dependency is invisible dominance. You were never taught to see this because a man who sees the architecture stops participating passively. He starts asking who benefits from his obedience. He starts tracing incentives. He stops chasing approval and starts measuring leverage. That shift is where sovereignty begins. But it is uncomfortable, because once you see that most of your choices were reactions, you must confront the reality that you've been strategically positioned, not self-directed. That realization wounds the ego. Good. A wounded ego is easier to rebuild than a delusional one. Right now, your fate is a collaboration between your habits and external forces are winning. You scroll when bored, you spend when insecure, you agree when pressured, you delay when uncertain. These are not random weaknesses, they are predictable patterns. Predictable men are manageable men, and manageable men are replaceable. The first step to ensuring no one controls your fate again is not building power, it is seeing the cage.
Until you recognize how your environment scripts your behavior, every strategy you attempt will still operate within someone else's design. You cannot win a game you don't realize you're playing, and you are already in the arena. 2026 will not be kind to men who remain reactive. It will elevate those who move first, decide first, detach first. The illusion must die. You are not free because you can choose between options. You are free only when you can create them. Control is not emotional, it is structural. You imagine manipulation as a villain whispering in your ear, dramatic, obvious, personal. That fantasy protects you from seeing the truth. Modern control is systemic. It doesn't need to hate you, it only needs to predict you. And you are predictable. Every system that governs your behavior runs on 4 pillars: attention, emotion, reward, and dependency. Master these, and a man can be steered without ever feeling forced. First pillar, attention capture. Where your attention goes, your behavior follows. Your phone is not a tool, it is a command center directing your focus. Notifications fracture your concentration. Feeds condition impulsive consumption. Headlines trigger microdoses of outrage and validation. Your mind is pulled outward, constantly reacting. A distracted man cannot strategize. He survives in fragments. Second pillar, emotional conditioning. Fear and validation are the primary levers. Fear of missing out, fear of irrelevance, fear of financial instability, paired with validation loops, likes, praise, promotions, approval. The nervous system becomes trained like a laboratory subject. Avoid pain, seek reward, repeat. You call this ambition. It is conditioning. When your emotional state depends on external signals, you are programmable. If your confidence rises and falls based on response from others, you have already surrendered control of your internal command system. Third pillar, artificial scarcity. Opportunities are framed as limited, time-sensitive, exclusive. You rush decisions, you commit under pressure. Scarcity bypasses rational evaluation and activates survival circuitry. The mind narrows. Urgency replaces clarity. In that state, you do not choose strategically, you choose defensively. And defensive men accept bad terms. Fourth pillar, dependency engineering. This is the final lock. Income tied to approval, status tied to performance metrics, relationships tied to compliance. When survival and belonging depend on staying within certain boundaries, self-censorship becomes automatic. No one needs to threaten you, you threaten yourself. You stay quiet to avoid losing income, you soften opinions to lose connection, you conform to social exile. That is advanced control, when the subject enforces his own limitations. Understand this clearly. Control today is not domination through force, it is domination through incentives. Incentives shape behavior more effectively than any violence ever could. And the incentives are everywhere. Corporate hierarchies reward compliance over initiative. Social platforms reward controversy over depth. Dating dynamics reward performance over authenticity. Political narratives reward outrage over analysis. Each system competes for your obedience. None compete for your sovereignty. Because a sovereign man disrupts predictability. He cannot be easily monetized. He cannot be easily managed. He does not panic under scarcity. He does not perform for validation. He does not tie identity to external structure, which means he is harder to exploit. The architecture of control depends on 3 weaknesses inside you: need for approval, fear of isolation, aversion to uncertainty. If any of these dominate your psychology, you are governable. Ask yourself, if everyone disapproved of your next move, would you still execute it? If your income dropped temporarily, would you remain stable? If your social circle rejected your growth, would you continue? Most men hesitate even imagining it. That hesitation is the architecture working. You were trained to believe that belonging equals safety, but belonging often equals submission. The group protects you so long as you align. The moment you deviate, you feel pressure, subtle, emotional, immediate, and so you return to alignment. This is how average futures are mass-produced. You don't need to be physically controlled when your nervous system is calibrated to avoid risk and seek approval. You will choose the safer job, the safer opinion, the safer path, and call it responsibility. But stability without leverage is disguised fragility. When the
Control does not operate in abstraction. It moves through people. Systems design the cage, people enforce it. If you cannot classify the humans around you, you will misplace trust. And misplaced trust is the fastest route to surrendering your leverage. There are 4 dominant archetypes you must recognize, not emotionally, strategically. First, the manipulator. He understands incentives. He studies weaknesses. He mirrors your language, reflects your values, earns your trust, then positions himself at the center of your decisions. He does not confront you directly. He nudges, suggests, frames. He makes you believe the idea was yours. You admire his confidence. You underestimate his calculation. The manipulator survives by attaching to capable men and quietly redirecting their output. If you crave validation, he will supply it. If you fear isolation, he will offer alliance. But every alliance he forms has a silent contract, influence in exchange for approval. Second, the emotional parasite. This one feeds on your guilt. He or she presents as fragile, misunderstood, overwhelmed. Their instability becomes your responsibility. Your time drains, your focus fractures, your ambitions soften because now isn't the right time. You adjust your goals to accommodate their chaos. They do not need power over the world, they only need power over your attention, and attention is the currency of destiny. If someone consistently diverts it, they are rewriting your future. Third, the institutional gatekeeper. Boss, executive, influencer, bureaucrat, algorithm designer. This archetype controls access, promotions, exposure, resources. They smile while reminding you of the hierarchy. You are encouraged to prove yourself, to be patient, to stay loyal. Gatekeepers reward those who strengthen the system, not those who transcend it. If your advancement depends entirely on someone else's permission, you are not climbing, you are waiting. Fourth, the compliant pawn. This one is more dangerous than the predator. He enforces norms without realizing it. He mocks ambition that threatens group stability. He discourages risk because it makes him uncomfortable. He repeats mainstream narratives with certainty. He is not malicious, he is domesticated. And domesticated men attack what challenges their cage. When you attempt to expand, they will label you unrealistic, arrogant, reckless, not because you are wrong, because your movement exposes their stagnation. Understand this, most control is social, not physical. You are influenced by proximity, by conversation, by repetition, by emotional contagion. If 5 people around you operate from fear, you will calibrate downward without noticing. Human beings synchronize. That is why environment is destiny. The predator leverages synchronization consciously. The pawn does it unconsciously. Both can derail you. If you cannot identify who benefits from your current trajectory, you are being positioned. Ask sharper questions. Who gains if you stay in your current job? Who gains if you remain agreeable? Who gains if you suppress your ambition? Who loses if you become independent? Watch reactions carefully when you assert boundaries. The manipulator becomes subtle. The parasite becomes dramatic. The gatekeeper becomes dismissive. The pawn becomes uncomfortable. Pressure reveals intent. In 2026, relationships will not just be emotional bonds, they will be strategic variables. They either amplify your sovereignty or dilute it. Neutral people do not exist. Influence always flows somewhere. The naive man evaluates relationships based on feelings. The strategic man evaluates them based on leverage and trajectory alignment. You were trained to value loyalty above all, but loyalty without mutual growth becomes containment. Predators look for compliant men. Gatekeepers look for dependent men. Parasites look for compassionate men who lack boundaries. Pawns look for ambitious men to normalize downward. If you are unaware of these dynamics, you will mistake resistance for coincidence. It is not coincidence. It is selection, and selection is ruthless. The moment you decide to control your fate, you trigger evaluation from everyone benefiting from your current position. Expect friction. It is proof that you were previously useful. History does not remember the agreeable. It remembers the decisive. You were raised on narratives that glorify morality without strategy. Be kind, be fair, be patient, wait your turn. But when you examine power, real power, you will notice a pattern. It concentrates around those willing to act without seeking permission. Empires were not built by consensus. They were built by men who understood timing, leverage, and force, economic, psychological, or military. Not reckless force, calculated force. They did not ask whether the world approved. They assessed whether the move would succeed. Approval is a luxury of the secure. Conquest is the language of the ambitious. Look at corporate hierarchies. Promotions rarely go to the most loyal. They go to the most strategically visible. The one who controls information. The one who can replace others but cannot easily be replaced. Human nature has not evolved past dominance hierarchies. It has refined them. In ancient arenas, power was displayed through physical superiority. Today, it is displayed through influence, capital, networks, narrative control. The battlefield changed. The instincts did not. You hesitate to assert dominance because you were conditioned to associate it with cruelty. But dominance is simply control over outcome. If you do not control outcomes in your life, someone else does. History punishes hesitation. Markets punish hesitation. Relationships punish hesitation. The man who waits for certainty is overtaken by the man who moves with calculated risk. Study every fallen empire, every collapsed career, every broken partnership. The pattern repeats: complacency, overconfidence, delayed adaptation. They believed stability would last. It never does. Comfort erodes vigilance. Vigilance erodes without threat. And when threat finally appears, the softened structure collapses quickly. This is not pessimism. It is pattern recognition. In every era, a small minority anticipates shifts before they become visible. They detach early. They diversify early. They reposition early. The majority reacts late, complains loudly, and negotiates from weakness. Ruthlessness does not mean chaos. It means emotional detachment from outcomes that weaken you. It means cutting alliances that no longer serve your trajectory. It means reallocating resources without apology. It means prioritizing sovereignty over sentiment. You were taught that consistency equals virtue, but history shows that adaptability equals survival. The rigid break, the fluid reposition. In 2026, volatility will increase, economic structures will tighten, social narratives will intensify, opportunities will polarize. Those who cling to outdated roles, loyal employee, agreeable partner, compliant citizen, will find those roles offer diminishing returns because systems extract more when pressure rises. The ruthless prepare before extraction begins. They build optionality. They reduce dependency. They accumulate skills and assets that cannot be easily revoked. They understand that respect flows toward strength, not kindness. Kindness without power invites exploitation. Strength without apology invites caution. You fear becoming cold, but the world already is. The difference is that you have been operating warm in a cold environment. That imbalance costs you leverage. History does not reward good intentions, it rewards effective strategy. The question is not whether ruthlessness exists, it is whether you will remain naive while others deploy it against you. Every era has a selection point, a moment when those who adapted early surge ahead, and those who delayed struggle to survive. You are approaching one. If you continue believing fairness protects you, you will be blindsided by those who understood the game better. Sovereignty requires detachment. Detachment requires strength. Strength requires decision. And decision requires abandoning the myth that morality alone shields you.
Power without protocol collapses. You don't regain control of your fate through emotion. You do it through laws, personal laws, non-negotiable operating codes that restructure your behavior under pressure. These are not inspirational principles. They are survival directives. Law 1. Never depend on a single source of survival. One income stream is vulnerability. One social circle is vulnerability. One skill is vulnerability. Diversification is not ambition, it is insurance against control. Law 2. Reduce emotional reactivity. The man who reacts first loses leverage first. Delay your response. Observe longer than is comfortable. Emotion is information, not instruction. Law 3. Build replaceability in others, irreplaceability in yourself. Never position yourself where one person controls your access. At the same time, cultivate rare value, specialized skill, disciplined reliability, strategic thinking. Make losing you expensive. Law 4. Control your time aggressively. If others dictate your schedule, they dictate your direction. Protect uninterrupted blocks of time. Creation before consumption. Strategy before socializing. Law 5. Speak less than you calculate. Information is leverage. The more you reveal impulsively, the more angles others gain. Silence forces others to expose themselves. Law 6. Audit incentives, not words. People reveal their true alignment through benefit, not promises. Ask, what do they gain if I comply? What do they lose if I evolve? Incentives predict behavior with surgical accuracy. Law 7. Develop financial detachment. Panic over money leads to submission. Build reserves, lower unnecessary expenses, increase high-value skills. When you are not desperate, you negotiate from strength. Law 8. Embrace strategic isolation. Temporary solitude recalibrates your nervous system. Distance exposes manipulation. Noise fades. You think clearly when not constantly influenced. Law 9. Eliminate approval addiction. Respect earned through strength lasts. Approval gained through compliance expires. Detach from applause. Focus on positioning. Law 10. Make decisions that expand optionality. Every move should increase your future choices, not shrink them. Avoid contracts, emotional or financial, that trap you in dependency. Law 11. Train for volatility. Assume disruption.
Prepare mentally and financially. Learn adaptable skills. Practice calm under uncertainty. Stability is temporary. Adaptability is permanent. Law 12. Move before you are forced. The strongest position is voluntary transition. Change jobs before collapse. Adjust investments before panic. Set boundaries before resentment. First movers dictate terms. These laws are not comfortable. They require discipline over desire, silence over expression, patience over impulse. You will feel colder implementing them. Good. Warm men are easily handled. Sovereign men operate from calculation. Understand what these laws do psychologically. They remove your pressure points. When you are not desperate for validation, you cannot be emotionally blackmailed. When you are not financially cornered, you cannot be economically coerced. When you are not socially dependent, you cannot be isolated into submission. Pressure loses grip when leverage increases. Most men seek motivation. That is weakness disguised as inspiration. Motivation fluctuates. Protocol remains. The 12 strategic laws convert you from reactive participant to strategic architect. You stop asking what happens next. You start shaping what happens next. But there is a cost. These laws will strain relationships built on your compliance. They will expose shallow alliances. They will challenge your own comfort patterns. You will notice resistance from others and from yourself. Because sovereignty threatens systems that benefit from your predictability. The obedient version of you will whisper that this is extreme, that you are overthinking, that life isn't war. Life is not war, but power dynamics are constant, and ignoring them does not make them disappear. If you internalize these laws, your fate shifts from external design to internal command, slowly at first, then decisively. But laws alone are insufficient if the identity enforcing them remains weak. You cannot apply sovereign strategy with a submissive self-concept. The old identity must die. Strategy without identity shift collapses under pressure. You can memorize all 12 laws. You can repeat them. You can even apply them temporarily. But the moment tension rises, social conflict, financial uncertainty, romantic withdrawal, the old version of you will resurface. The agreeable one, the approval-seeking one, the one trained to smooth tension instead of command it. That version must be dismantled, not adjusted, eliminated. Your current identity was constructed by reinforcement. As a child, compliance earned safety. In school, obedience earned praise. In early adulthood, agreeability preserved relationships. Each time you chose harmony over dominance, your nervous system recorded it as survival. You became efficient at being non-threatening. That efficiency is now a liability. Because power does not respond to harmless men, it negotiates with force or ignores you entirely. The first execution is internal language. Stop describing yourself as nice, loyal, easygoing, understanding. These traits signal predictability. Replace them with precise traits: disciplined, selective, observant, strategic. Language shapes self-perception. Self-perception shapes action. If you see yourself as the mediator, you will mediate, even when conflict is required. If you see yourself as the stabilizer, you will absorb chaos, even when detachment is smarter. The sovereign identity does not absorb chaos. It redirects it. Second execution, tolerance thresholds. The old you tolerated disrespect to maintain connection, tolerated inefficiency to maintain comfort, tolerated stagnation to maintain familiarity. Lower tolerance equals higher dominance. When you correct immediately, calmly, without emotional leakage, you reshape perception. People recalibrate quickly when boundaries are enforced without drama. Weak men explain. Strong men state.
Third execution, emotional neutrality under friction. The old identity feared tension. The new one studies it. When someone challenges you, your pulse will rise. That is biological, but your expression must remain stable. Stillness under pressure unnerves opponents. Most people escalate emotionally. When you do not, you control pacing. Pacing controls outcome. Fourth execution, detachment from outcome dependency. The old you feared losing the relationship, the job, the opportunity. That fear distorted negotiation. The new identity assumes replaceability of external factors and prioritizes internal positioning. If you can walk away, you are powerful. If you cannot walk away, you are owned. This is where most men fail. They adopt assertive behavior but remain psychologically dependent. They bluff strength while secretly fearing loss. That contradiction leaks through micro-expressions, tone shifts, hesitation. Predators detect that instantly. Identity death requires rehearsal. You must repeatedly choose the harder action until it becomes automatic. Speak last in meetings. Delay replies when pressured. Say no without justification. End conversations that waste time. Withdraw attention when disrespected. Each act chips away at the compliant persona. Expect backlash. The manipulator will test you harder. The emotional parasite will escalate. The pawn will accuse you of changing. You are changing. That is the point. When you withdraw predictable compliance, the ecosystem destabilizes. People relied on your softness. Remove it, and the power balance shifts. Some will adapt. Some will exit. Let them. Sovereignty is incompatible with universal approval. You will feel colder, more alone, less validated. Good. Aloneness builds internal command. Validation dependency erodes it. The final step is self-concept realignment. You are no longer a participant hoping for fair outcomes. You are an architect designing leverage. Every move is filtered through strength, optionality, and long-term positioning. Ask before.
Every era has a quiet filter. Not a loud collapse, not a dramatic revolution, a filter. 2026 will not announce itself as a battlefield. It will feel like acceleration. Faster markets, faster narratives, faster replacements. Decisions will compress. Consequences will arrive quicker. Those who hesitate will not be destroyed publicly. They will simply be bypassed. Selection does not scream. It sorts. Men who built optionality will expand. Men who stayed compliant will tighten. Men who mastered emotional neutrality will negotiate upward. Men who remained reactive will scramble for stability. You will see it happen in slow motion. Jobs evaporate, and only the adaptable pivot cleanly. Social climates shift, and only the detached remain steady. Opportunities polarize, and only the decisive capture them. The rest will complain about unfairness. Fairness is irrelevant to selection. Nature does not reward good intentions. Markets do not reward loyalty. Power does not reward hope. They reward preparedness and execution. Understand what this means. 2026 will magnify whatever identity you carry into it. If you enter with dependency, dependency will python. If you enter with leverage, leverage will multiply. Acceleration amplifies structure. That is why this is not about motivation. Motivation expires under stress. This is about structural positioning, systems within you that cannot be easily shaken. Most men will sense instability and cling harder to familiarity. They will double down on obedience. They will trade freedom for short-term certainty. They will accept smaller roles and exchange for temporary safety. And the system will gladly accommodate them.
because manageable men are efficient to process. But a minority will detach early. They will reduce liabilities, strengthen reserves, sharpen skills, cut emotional anchors, move before pressure forces movement. These men will not look dramatic. They will look calm, focused, slightly withdrawn, calculating. While others panic, they will reposition. This is the difference between reacting to fate and designing it. You cannot stop volatility. You cannot prevent shifts in economy, culture, technology. But you can prevent dependency from dictating your response. And that is control. The final truth is simple. No one controls your fate directly. They control it indirectly through your weaknesses. Remove the weaknesses and control evaporates. Remove desperation. Remove approval addiction. Remove single-source dependency. Remove fear of isolation. What remains is strategic autonomy. Not arrogance, not aggression, autonomy. When you are willing to walk away, to pivot, to endure temporary isolation, to withstand short-term discomfort, you become extremely difficult to corner. And cornered men are controlled men. 2026 will not punish you for being kind. It will punish you for being naive. The obedient identity dies quietly. The sovereign identity moves quietly. There is no applause for this transformation, no public validation, only leverage. This is the selection year. You either architect your trajectory now or you negotiate terms later from a weaker position. No one will control your fate again, only if you become the kind of man who cannot be steered. Decide which side of the filter you stand on.